Hey, this is Warren Redlick. I'm going to tear down an article here by Paul Krugman from the New York Times. Did the Tesla story ever make sense? Paul Krugman is an economist who has some degree of fame, probably undeserved. He had some limited accomplishments in economics and then became a public figure talking on the New York Times and other outlets. And when it comes to Tesla, you're going to see he doesn't really know what he's talking about. But let's get into it. Are you ready? Let's go. This is the start of the article. This is from December 27th, and Krugman compares Tesla to cryptocurrency. You're one of those people who bought Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency near its peak last fall. You lost a lot of money. Consolation, no, you would have lost a similar amount if you'd bought Tesla stock instead. Lots of assets are down. But comparing a company that produces actual products that are delivered to actual customers and developing actual technology that is used by actual people is not the same as cryptocurrency. I personally believe that cryptocurrency has a future as a currency, not as an asset. I'm not as much of a critic of cryptocurrency as others, but the idea that this guy actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to Tesla, you're just going to see this. He doesn't make any sense. He says Tesla's stock plunge is an opportunity to talk about what makes business successful in the information age. And in the end, Tesla and Bitcoin may have more in common than you think. All right, let's see how it goes. So Krugman starts off by saying it's natural to attribute Tesla's decline, part of a general fall in tech stocks, but exceptionally steep example. No, it's not. Rivian, Lucid Motors, Arcimoto have all fallen more. EV stocks are down more than Tesla. To Musk's purchase of Twitter and the reputational self-immolation that followed. Okay, so Elon has not self-immolated. Elon's following on Twitter is growing. Elon is doing really well, and Tesla's going really well, by the way. Indeed, given what we've seen of Musk's behavior, I wouldn't trust him to feed my cat, let alone run a major corporation. What does this have to do with feeding cats? This is just silly. Run a major corporation. Elon runs Tesla, which is one of the largest corporations in the world. He runs SpaceX, which is the leading launch provider in the world. He runs Neuralink, which is working on brain implants to save lives in a variety of ways. And he's working on the Boring Company tunnel systems, and he built PayPal. He's done a lot of successful things with major corporations. What has Paul Krugman done? Who is the business leader that you would trust more to run a tech business than Elon Musk? I don't know. Furthermore, Tesla's sales have surely depended, at least in part, on the perception that Musk himself is a cool guy. I didn't buy my Teslas because Elon was a cool guy. I bought my Teslas because they're awesome cars. They're better cars than other cars. Krugman will say later in the article that he doesn't really drive much. He's not a car guy. Well, then maybe you shouldn't talk about car companies. If you don't know much about cars, why are you taking your fame and putting it on a prominent platform and exposing that you don't know what you're talking about? Who, aside from MAGA types who probably wouldn't have bought Teslas anyways, sees him that way now? I'm not a MAGA type. I didn't vote for Trump. I would never have voted. I never voted for Trump. I disliked Trump. I'm a libertarian. I'm somebody who likes technology, and there's an awful lot of people who think that Elon is an amazing innovator, including an awful lot of people, over 100,000 people who work for him. And the fact that, this Whitberger thinks that somehow he's qualified to judge whether Elon is popular. Look, when you live in a bubble, this guy lives in an elite liberal bubble, and he thinks that everybody thinks the same way that he does. And anybody who doesn't think the way he does is apparently a MAGA type. It's nonsense. On the other hand, as someone who spent much of his professional life in academia, I see. I'm familiar with the phenomenon of people who are genuinely brilliant in some areas, but utter fools in other domains. Does that apply to you? Are you genuinely brilliant in some areas, but utter fools in other domains? Because I think you may have stepped into one, Mr. Krugman. For all I know, Musk is or was a highly effective leader at Tesla and SpaceX. Have you seen the rocket launches? Have you driven in a Tesla? Like, he started up a successful car company the first time it's been done in 100 years. He built a rocket company that is now the dominant launch provider when everybody said it was impossible. He built PayPal, which you probably use. He's one of the early creators of online maps, which you probably use. Even if that's the case, though, it's hard to explain the huge valuation the market put on Tesla before the drop, or even its current value. Well, those who follow my channel know it's easy to explain Tesla's large valuation. Tesla is massively undervalued. If you look at the future, if you look at where the company is going, if you look at the fact that they're rapidly increasing production, that they are profitable, and they have insane technology advantages over everybody else. But Paul Krugman writes a column in the New York Times, doesn't know anything about Tesla, but he knows. Apparently, this is like brilliant in other areas, but utter fools in other domains. Like, he may be brilliant in economics. I'm not sure I buy that. I think he was brilliant in economics in the past. But you're stepping into a domain where you don't know anything. You just had this line, and now you're stepping in a domain where you know nothing. After all, to be that valuable, Tesla would have to generate huge profits. Yes, yes. Not just for a few years, but in a way that can be expected to continue for many years to come. Yes, yes, okay. Maybe you should explore that, Mr. Krugman. Maybe you should explore the possibility that Tesla is going to generate huge profits, not just for a few years, but a way that can be expected to continue for many years to come. Because that's actually the plan. Now, some technology companies have indeed been long-term money-making machines. Apple and Microsoft still top the list of most profitable, but we more or less understand the durability of their dominance, and it's hard to see how Tesla could ever achieve something similar. So now Apple rose more recently with the iPhone. Apple was around for a long time, and it was only the iPhone that took off. And nobody thought the iPhone was going to be anywhere near what it became. And both Apple and Microsoft, their growth has slowed quite a bit. So they are dominant companies, but they're not growing. And Krugman is here demonstrating he doesn't understand the difference between a growth company and a stable company. Microsoft and Apple are stable, at least for now, but they're not growing. It's hard to see how Tesla could ever achieve something similar, know how brilliant its leadership. Both Apple and Microsoft benefit from strong network externalities. Do you know anything about Tesla? Strong network externalities. What's the supercharger network? How about the software inside the cars? People who know Tesla say that the Tesla is an iPhone on wheels. Like, he literally has no idea. Yeah, they have strong network externalities because everyone uses their products because everyone else uses their products. Yeah, that's a plus, but that doesn't necessarily lead to growth. And if you want to have an insane valuation, you need growth. And Apple and Microsoft are no longer growing in any significant way. They may be growing a small amount, but they're not growing big. And Tesla's growing really, really fast. In the case of Microsoft, traditional story is companies continue to buy the company's software because they're already set up to use it. In other words, he's basically saying, look, Microsoft makes shitty products, but people buy them anyway. These days, Microsoft has a better reputation than it used to, but as far as I can tell, its market strength still reflects comfort and corporate habit rather than the perception of excellence. Okay, well, Tesla reflects a perception of excellence, and they have some really strong advantages. And like, did you read Peter Thiel's From Zero to One? Like, this is a guy. Paul Krugman dates back. He's getting older. He's thinking about the past days of companies. You know, nobody saw Apple breaking through with the iPhone the way they did. So, and nobody saw Amazon breaking through the way they did. If you take this guy's analysis and you apply it to Amazon in 2013 or Apple in 2008, you'd think those companies weren't going anywhere. Because he doesn't really know what he's talking about. Apple's story is different in the details, more about individual users and institutions. And Apple was widely considered cool, which I don't think Microsoft ever was. But on an economic level, it's simple. I can attest from personal experience that once you're in the iPhone, iPad, MacBook ecosystem, you won't give up on its convenience unless you're offered something a lot better. So this is true. But if you're going to go on your personal experience in the iPhone, iPad, MacBook ecosystem, you probably should try the Tesla ecosystem. You should probably try getting into the Tesla ecosystem. I'm not driving a gas car again. If I have to, in a short spurt, I'll drive it. I'm never buying a gas car again. I'm never buying a car that won't drive itself again. You have no idea what you're talking about. Look, the iPhone, iPad, MacBook ecosystem. I'm recording this on a MacBook right now, and I got my iPhone right here. I'm down with that. But to project your experience with Apple and the iPhone and the iPad and the MacBook and not recognize that maybe you should consider how this might apply to Tesla. Maybe you should ride in a Tesla. Maybe you should drive a Tesla. Maybe you should experience full self-drive. I don't think he even knows FSD beta exists. Similar stories can be told about a few other companies, such as Amazon with its distribution infrastructure. Amazon's actually making most of its profits from AWS. I love Amazon. I was a shareholder of Amazon. I made a lot of money on my Amazon stock. I'm a frequent customer of Amazon. It's my first place I go to for shopping. But as I understand it, Amazon's real success financially has been AWS, Amazon Web Services, not their distribution network. I think their distribution network is great. I love the company. I think their product, their shopping business is fantastic. And maybe I'm wrong, but my impression is they were driven more by AWS, and they also fell a lot. Amazon stock plummeted in the last year. Not as much as at Tesla, maybe, but it's in the same ballpark. The question is, where are the powerful network externalities in the electric vehicle business? Well, supercharge your network for starters. But he doesn't know about that because he's never driven a Tesla. He's never rent one for a week and figure it out. Electric cars may well be the future of personal transportation. In fact, they better be, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard to see what would give Tesla a long-term lock on the electric vehicle business. Well, they have better manufacturing. They have better software. They have the supercharger network. They have self-driving. They're getting first mover advantage, which is something Paul Krugman doesn't understand. By being the biggest player in the electric vehicle market early, you make it harder for others to compete with you. And Tesla is relentlessly innovating. He's not aware of the relentless innovation culture at Tesla. He just has no clue about it. Because I'm not talking about how great Teslas are or aren't right now. I'm not a car enthusiast. Okay, yeah, we can tell you're not a car enthusiast. You don't know what you're talking. In other words, you don't know what you're talking about, but you decided to talk about a subject you know nothing about anyway. But the lesson from Apple and Microsoft is that to be extremely profitable in the long run, you need to establish a market position that holds up even when the time comes, as it always does, that people aren't all that excited about its products. See, he doesn't know about FSD. He doesn't know about bot. He doesn't know about AI training as a service. He doesn't know anything about what Tesla's doing. He isn't aware that it's an edge to manufacture your vehicles at lower cost with higher efficiency. And that if you continue innovating relentlessly while others are innovating less relentlessly and not as aggressively, that you're going to establish a market dominant position. He doesn't see it. What would make that happen for Tesla? You can imagine a world in which dedicated Tesla hookups were the only widely available charging stations. Well, right now that's true. Or in which Teslas were the only electric cars mechanics knew how to fix. Or what if they don't need to be fixed? But with major auto manufacturers moving into the electric vehicle business, oh no, the competition is coming. Oh, we've never heard the competition is coming before. The Ford Mustang Mach-E and the Ford F-150 Lightning, which can tow maybe 100 miles, not much mass. The VW ID4, all these companies, no, the competition isn't coming. And the competition is gas cars. We're all competing together against the gas cars. I'd argue the Inflation Reduction Act, with its strong incentives for electrification, will actually hurt Tesla. Why? Because it will quickly make electric cars so common that Teslas no longer seem special. Teslas aren't special just because they're electric. Teslas are special for many reasons. And the Inflation Reduction Act is a huge boost to Tesla because it's per car and there's no cap, and Tesla makes more electric vehicles than anybody else. And Tesla's cars are more made in America than everybody else, and that's one of the requirements of the Inflation Reduction Act is more of your vehicle has to be made. The battery materials have to come from the U.S. or come from countries within a certain list. So he hasn't even analyzed the Inflation Reduction Act. He doesn't see it. And also the Inflation Reduction Act benefits companies that manufacture batteries. And Tesla's the only electric vehicle manufacturer that's making its own batteries. And they make their own modules. There's so many advantages in the IRA for Tesla. And he's completely unaware of this. You go back to that quote where people who are brilliant in their own field, but they're, utter morons in other fields. You have no idea what you're talking about. In short, electrical vehicle production just doesn't look like a network externality business. It does when you produce at scale. See, as an economist, he should understand economies of scale. Tesla's factories are producing an extremely high volume of the same vehicle, basically. Other car manufacturers make a whole bunch of different models, and as part of the result of that is they lose economies of scale. And one of the economies of scale is Tesla manufactures a lot of vehicles and figures out how they can make them better, and they innovate constantly, so their vehicles are constantly updated. And every week the next Tesla is better than the last one. There's small incremental changes over time, but when you add them up over a year, it's a huge difference. Just a really good example: eliminating ultrasonics. The software, the self-driving software, the Tesla Vision software allowed them to eliminate ultrasonics, saves like $200 a car. Every one of these little things enables you to make the cars for less money and enables to make your cars less weight, make the cars better, less complex, less likely to break, all kinds of advantages. Then he says, it does. Twitter, a platform many of us still use, because so many other people use it. But Twitter usage is apparently hard to monetize, not to mention that Musk appears set on finding out just how much of degradation of the user experience it will take to break its network externalities and drive away the clientele. No, Twitter's growing. Twitter is doing better. Twitter is improving rapidly, and they're making a lot of progress. And this guy, they make these judgments without thinking. Elon's Twitter following is growing. Engagement on the platform is growing. There's a lot more activity on the platform. And he only wrote this like 3 days ago. And he's not paying attention to how much better Twitter is getting. He just doesn't see it. Which brings us back to the question of why Tesla was ever worth so much. The answer, as best as I can tell, is that investors fell in love with a storyline about a brilliant, cool innovator, despite the absence of a good argument of how this guy, even if he really was who he appeared to be, could found a long-lived money machine. Okay, so I do think he's a brilliant, cool innovator, but that's not the storyline. If you watch my channel, you know that's not the storyline I've been telling. And it's obvious that Krugman hasn't bothered to watch Rob Maurer's channel. He hasn't bothered to watch Solving the Money Problem. He hasn't bothered to watch Dave Lee to understand that we don't focus on Elon as a brilliant, cool innovator. We focus on what Tesla, the company, is doing. We focus on the battery advantages. We focus on the software advantages, the supercharger advantages, the rapid growth, the rapid innovation culture. There's so many good things happening at Tesla that he's clueless about. He's just completely like he thinks like we're just Elon fans. And I'm unabashedly an Elon Musk fanboy, right? But I'm not so captivated by his celebrity that I don't actually analyze, and I didn't put 97 or whatever percent of my portfolio into Tesla stock because I thought Elon was cool. I did start buying Tesla stock because they started landing rocket boosters. SpaceX started landing rocket boosters, and 3 months later I started buying Tesla stock. The landing rocket boosters was super cool, and it made me think this guy might be onto something, and it made me explore the stock. And I bought a little stock, and I started paying more attention. And I bought a little stock, and I started paying more attention. But watch my channel. Find me the video where I said Tesla's worth so much money because Elon's cool. You're not going to find it. I make videos breaking down by napkin math. Here's what happens when you make 3 terawatt products with 3 terawatt hours of batteries in 2030. That's what they're doing. They're scaling production. And they don't have to have like the only market share. They don't have to be a monopolist to get there. You can get 25% of the global market for transportation. You're doing pretty good. Plus, they're innovating on insurance. They're innovating in so many different ways. And the robo-taxi network, you want to talk about network externalities. You want to talk about the advantages of a network. If Tesla gets to the robo-taxi network first, and they deploy the first and best robo-taxi network, there you go. But he's not even aware of does he mention self-driving cars? Does he mention robo-taxis? Does he mention vehicle software? Does he mention battery advantages, efficiency advantages? He mentions none of that because he knows nothing about Tesla. He knows nothing about the company's doing. And he just throws off the top of his head, Tesla's a flash in the pan. And as I said, there's a parallel here with Bitcoin. And keep in mind, this guy's an economist who should understand that if you raise interest rates, it's going to affect companies that sell products that are sold based on debt. And it's going to affect the value of stocks when investors are deciding, do I want to invest in solid bonds, federal government bonds, or do I want to invest in stocks? If you raise the return on bonds, then people are going to shift from stocks into bonds. He's an economist. He should know this, but he doesn't care. Parallel with Bitcoin, despite years of effort, nobody has yet managed to find any serious use for cryptocurrency other than money laundering. That's not true. Remittances is a very useful function of cryptocurrency. That's when somebody comes from one country, moves to another country to make money, and wants to send money back to his family. Remittances is one of the most prominent uses of Bitcoin. It is not predominantly used for money laundering. There's a variety of digital transactions that it's useful for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. There's a variety, and then there are also insulation against governments printing money and destroying their own currency. But if you have a cryptocurrency out there that provides some sort of stable value, hopefully, and then your country starts printing money like mad, you have this other currency that has a limit on how much can be created. And that's another advantage of cryptocurrency. Look, I'm not saying that cryptocurrency is the future. I personally think that people got carried away with cryptocurrency as an asset as opposed to a currency. Its real value to me is as a currency. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto was saying in the white paper. He didn't talk about it as an investment. He talked about it as a currency. It's called cryptocurrency, not crypto asset. So that's just, that's something I think that the crypto community got wrong. But you can't control that. Something similar surely happened with Tesla. Don't call me Shirley. Even though the company actually does make useful things. No, something similar didn't happen with Tesla. It didn't soar in hype. It soared on actual productive value. And the stock came down to some extent because of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates, which affects all companies that make large items that are sold based on debt. Large complicated manufactured items that are sold based on debt. That raises the monthly payment, which means the buyer can't afford as much cars, so you either have to lower prices or sell fewer cars. And Rivian is down, and Lucid is down, and Arcimoto is down. right? And then because Tesla was so heavily bought on margin by reckless investors who got captivated by the stock rather than the company, they faced margin calls, and that created a lot of selling pressure on the stock. And then at the end of the year, you've got tax loss harvesting. So there's a whole bunch of reasons going on. And then inside the Tesla community, you have a few false prophets who have been leading we always had FUD from the outside, but now from the inside, we have certain prominent figures within the Tesla community. One of them's name rhymes with Barry Glack, who are constantly talking down about they're constantly criticizing Elon, they're constantly criticizing Tesla. They're saying that the Tesla board of directors isn't doing their job, that Elon isn't doing their job, and they're taking the core people who normally support Tesla and they're eroding that support from the inside. It's insidious. Now, is it a really long-term problem? No, because Tesla continues to execute and Tesla will continue to execute and the growth will appear, and at some point Wall Street investors will figure out we've got a bargain stock here. The selling pressure will be gone because the margin people are gone and the stock will come back up. Now, I don't make short-term predictions. I don't know how stock price will move. I'm just saying over time Tesla's going to sell more and more vehicles. They're going to keep producing high volumes of vehicles, sell high volumes of vehicles. They're going to solve FSD, they're going to solve, robotaxi, and it's going to go crazy. But even without FSD and robotaxi, just getting to 3 terawatt hours of batteries, selling products containing 3 terawatt hours of batteries, that makes Tesla an $8 trillion company. That's my bear case for Tesla, is if it just gets to 3 terawatt hours of battery production, battery use in their products, and you do $500 a kilowatt hour, which is roughly what they get for their products containing batteries, you end up with a ballpark of $8 trillion market cap. Now, if the government crashes the economy, if we have a global thermonuclear war, there's other things that can happen. But the idea that some old professor who used to have something relevant to say in a narrow field suddenly is an expert in pricing the value of advanced technology company, it's silly. I'd like to thank Dr. Krugman, Professor Krugman, Mr. Krugman for appearing in this video and offering me the opportunity to rebut his utter stupidity in a field that is not his own. Please check out my other videos, support me on Patreon, support me on the Locals platform in particular, support me as a YouTube channel member, check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Please like this video, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year!